COVID has affected us all, some more than others. Some of us lost jobs. Some of us found a new way to work efficiently from home. Some of us had to shut down businesses. Some of our businesses have flourished. But no matter how COVID has affected you directly, the lack of social interaction has created a mental health crisis in the United States. Whiskey culture was a natural deterrent to the feeling of separation. We were always getting together, catching up, living life with each other. And it was good and it was healthy. But as COVID started to shut things down, all of that changed. And I hope that we can get that back one day soon. Many businesses had to adapt, find a way to survive. But those businesses that rely heavily on face-to-face interactions suffered dearly, especially in the whiskey industry. Any whiskey festival was basically shut down, and small distilleries that rely very heavily on in-person sales have been suffering. This is why I interviewed Jamie and Jake. Jamie Biel is the Director of Science and Sustainability for Treaty Oak Distilling. Treaty Oak has a spring on its 28-acre Ghost Hill Ranch estate that's been a stopping point on the Chisholm Trail for travelers looking for a place to refresh for hundreds of years. In a way, they were still fulfilling that mission until corona restrictions shut tourism down in Texas. The owners are committed to safety and are uniquely situated to provide a social experience that we all need, all while following safety protocol that should keep us safe. Jake Clements is the founder of the Texas Whiskey Festival. Festivals like his not only provide an amazing experience to guests to socialize and connect with other whiskey lovers, but they also provide an invaluable opportunity for small brands to directly connect with their ideal customer. Interacting with customers like this is difficult, if not impossible, through the normal 3-tier system of distribution. So these festivals were not only critical for the trailblazers like Jake out there, but also for the small craft distilleries that needed that interaction with their would-be clients. These two were uniquely affected by the coronavirus shutdown. Let's hear what it was like for them when the virus first hit.
February of last year was our best year on record, our best month on record.
Wow.
Both in retail sales as well as on-premise sales. We were rocking and rolling, and then the world stopped.
March 7th, the day before South by had canceled their event. So I'm scrambling saying, we're still having it. Guys, we're having it. The best place you can be is a place full of whiskey.
Yeah.
So we got it, and then 1 week later, the state, everything, the world felt like just shut down.
In the very early days of COVID, so March and April, we very quickly realized we weren't going to be having anybody in our restaurant. Mm-hmm. So we actually converted the restaurant and this building here to a grocery store.
I think the initial thought was, this is going to be over in a few months, right?
Right.
I mean, I think we all kind of had this idea that, we're going to go into
2 weeks to
lockdown.
flatten the curve.
Yeah, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then we're going to be there. And then that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And I never really panicked, so to speak. I just kind of, honestly, I focused on other things.
Right.
And then it was about June, July, whenever I really started going, oh crap, we're not going to be out of this.
When you shut down whiskey tourism, that is a major impact on the bottom lines of the smaller craft producers. Right. Is that fair to say?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Getting liquid to lips is always the goal. Mm-hmm. Selling bottles, and the way we do that is to bring people out so they can experience this place, fall in love with the energy that exists on these 28 acres. And then they taste the spirits and it speaks for themselves. So then they will go out and seek out those products and tell their friends, and that's how we grow. Mm-hmm. This place is our best marketing resource.
So why does going to a whiskey event even matter? It's just a social engagement, right? Well, we didn't really understand how important getting together was for mental health until it got taken away from us. And now we're seeing all types of side effects that nobody really anticipated when we came up with the plan to lock down. The increase in alcohol consumption is alarming. The increase of depression and suicide is shocking. So it might be more important than people would think to bring whiskey gatherings back and let people interact. Let's hear from Jamie and Jake about why they think these gatherings are important.
I know I'm ready to get out there. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to see the whiskey community on the road again. Mm-hmm. But the biggest trick is, how do you do it to where people feel safe?
And they're appreciative of being able to come out and have sunshine, or sit under the shade tree, and laugh and talk. And when we finally brought live music back, it was was just so exciting. The first time I came back out.
It's almost like a mental health day.
I swear.
And less of a whiskey day.
When I came out and I smelled the mash for the first time in months, I mean, I really did. I got teary-eyed.
Whiskey is so much more than just a drink. I mean, some, that's all they see it is, but I discovered very quickly after I launched the first one, we had it, I didn't know anything about the industry. But what I quickly learned was, holy crap, this has opened so many doors for me. I've got to meet so many people that I never would have got to meet. So it really did turn into, I have a passion for Texas whiskey, to I have a passion for whiskey and what it does. And that is, it becomes an experience. It creates memories for people.
There's this sense of ownership that people feel when they come out here. Employees, customers, especially the loyal ones. We have many.
When all of that stuff first happened, I was a realtor, and in Texas, realtors were always considered an essential service. So I still was leaving the house and going out and doing appointments. But my wife, who has Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune disease, and it was on the list in the beginning of whether or not it was, a high risk category, she didn't leave the house. She didn't put gas in her car. She didn't go to the grocery store. And whenever restaurants started opening up with limited capacity, she said, I need you to take me outside so I can just be around people. Like, we're still gonna be social distance. We're still gonna wear our masks to and from, the table and take it off once we get our drinks and all that stuff. But I just need to be around other people to feel sane again.
I feel like a lot of people do come out just because they know they can engage in outdoor activity and life again, but still be safe.
Whiskey is a community. We talked about it, and we continue to talk about it, and I think that's one of the few people that, like, if they're not whiskey drinkers, and they fail to understand that it's more than that drink. It is a community, and these are people that I will get to know, and I will call friends, and I may be even call upon when needed in terms of disaster or need, right? Because it is a tight-knit community.
Sure.
And you will forge bonds over a glass of fermented grain.
Many Americans are just operating under the assumption that, hey, it's going to be no big deal because eventually the restrictions are going to go away. But there's still a lot of pressure that's put on these individual businesses to make decisions about what their safety protocol are going to be after the government removes the restrictions that were in place that forced them to do one thing or another. Let's hear from Jamie and Jake about what their thoughts are now that restrictions have been lifted entirely in the state of Texas, where their two organizations operate. It was funny because we had this trip planned to come down to Austin. We were going to record this piece about how COVID is affecting, whiskey social gatherings. And then the news comes down from the governor of Texas, makes international news that basically he's declared that the pandemic will no longer affect business in Texas. I believe that the American way is not to be told what's right for you, but for you to have the freedom to decide for yourself what you're comfortable with. And even though Texas kind of seems like a renegade state right now,
a little maverick,
a little bit maverick,
it
fits the Texas, and I believe the true American way, which is let's let people make their own decisions, right, for themselves, and let's try to let people do what they need to do for their own personal mental health. Hey there, Bourbon Real Talk listeners and watchers. Randy Sullivan here. Wanted to take a quick break to tell you how you can support the channel. We've had a lot of people that have come into the Bourbon Real Talk family lately, and we're grateful for every one of you. But unlike a lot of other channels, we don't have a Patreon, and I don't allow anyone to sponsor the show. So what I do have, though, is some merchandise. So one of the things that I wanted to show you guys is we have Bourbon Real Talk Glencairns available for sale on our website. And great news, we actually have some Wee Glens on their way. So we had Wee Glens custom manufactured. They're half the size of a regular Glen, excellent for tasting. On the website, we also have candles, and they're more masculine scents. So this one's like leather. And these candles are manufactured by my daughter's candle company. She wanted to buy her own car, so we helped her start her own business. And she manufactured a line of masculine smelling candles for the Bourbon Real Talk family. The next thing that we have is kind of a little interesting gadget. This is a Glen lanyard. So basically, it goes around your neck like any other lanyard, but it's specifically designed to hold a Glen whiskey glass. And it allows you to go hands-free. So honestly, the first time I saw one of these, I thought it was a silly concept. Then someone gave me one. I used it at a bottle share. It was super efficient, truly made it a more enjoyable experience as I interacted with people. We also have these decorative storage boxes for your whiskey samples. So if you get involved in the whiskey community, you're going to be given samples like this one. And one day you're going to look up and you got little sample bottles sitting all over the place. It doesn't look that good. And so we manufactured these custom storage boxes. Those are available as well. And the creme de la creme of merch for Bourbon Real Talk is the American Whiskey Aroma Kit. So the story on this is I was doing reviews. People kept asking me, how do you learn how to break down the different flavors of a whiskey? And I had learned through a wine aroma kit, but I could not find a bourbon aroma kit that I liked. Most of them came in a cardboard box. The scents didn't always make sense for bourbon. Some of them would say they were for bourbon, but they had scents in there that were really more Scotch focused. And so my wife, who helped with the candle company, helped me curate this box. We crowdsourced the 36 scents that went in this through the whiskey community. And I probably went through about 350 different scents to find these 36. Interesting little tidbit, I've given one of these to the master distiller of a major legacy Kentucky distillery, and he reported back that he loves all the scents and that he uses it to train his sensory team, but I am not allowed to tell you what the distillery is, or it would probably ruin my relationship with them. So, if you saw any of this stuff, you want to support the channel, you can head on over to bourbonrealtalk.com/shop and pick something up. But if you just want to hang out here and learn, I'm totally happy with that as well. Just happy to have you as a listener.
You know, it's not even about the rules. It's about what people feel comfortable with.
Sure.
So even though the governor has lifted the mask mandate and let businesses be open 100%, from everything we can tell from research is people, they don't care about what the rule is, they care about what they're comfortable with. It didn't change anything for me. Because, I mean, the initial outpouring right after that I saw from distilleries still saying we're going to require masks, and breweries, and just businesses in general. But then I had an email exchange with somebody that's on our newsletter, and he responded saying, with the news, are you going to change the event to where it's open? And my response was, as much as we would like to, and we think that opening is good, I just don't know that we're ready, that from a festival perspective, we're ready to have that many people in a different format. And his response was, I love the format, we're still being conscious and want to wear our mask and things like that. So that kind of response from somebody that has been to the last 3 was really reassuring and let me know that, okay, yeah, no, people aren't ready for a mass mingling of things. They still want to know that they can be safe, but yet still attend an event.
Like even when the governor announced we're gonna cut back on all of the regulations, you guys said no.
Immediately on the phone with the owner and said,
we're not changing
a thing.
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely not. This is the way we were doing it. This is why we're doing it. Stay strong, stay the course.
You don't have to stop. You can still, as long as you get creative and you're willing to, I mean, we're taking a risk doing this, right?
Right, sure.
But I think people are ready for it, and I hope that this model will serve as something that other, even just distilleries that have the space,
sure,
can adopt. And some of them are, like Treaty Oak. I mean, they're getting crowds out here, and they're able to social distance and things like that. And so I think hopefully they can see that it is possible. I guess hope is the biggest thing, right?
Right.
That there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that we are going to be able to do this again.
So if we can all agree that whiskey gatherings are important for mental health, what steps can we take to make sure that these gatherings are safe? Well, Jamie and Jake have spent a lot of time coming up with their safety protocol for their respective businesses. Let's hear exactly what they've put in place to make people feel safe and comfortable when they come out to see their organizations.
A lot of what we took designing the format this year was adopting that restaurant model. Was, okay, we have a big enough space, we can put tables out there, they can be at least 10 feet apart. We can set you at your table and you can have somebody wait on you. Well, this time we're switching it up over 2 nights. So it'll be a Friday night and then a Saturday day. We're dividing it up into basically 5 mini events. Each event is 2 hours long. So you show up at 1, you get seated at your table, you have a server going from a pour list, getting to sample everything. Distillers are still going to come around and talk to you, whereas in the year past,
you came to them.
You went to them and talked to them. So that's kind of the biggest change, right? Is you still have the 2-hour time limit that you always had. It's just
you're in one spot the whole time.
You're in one spot the entire time, and you can do it, as early as like 6 o'clock on Friday or as 2 o'clock on Saturday, right? And so we have it split up basically over 10 hours essentially versus 2. But that allows us to limit the capacity per time slot. Every table's at least 10 feet apart. Most of them are 15. And you still get a charcuterie on the table, whereas last time we had like taco bars and things like this. Well, we don't want you to get up and leaving, so we're serving hot food. So everybody's going to have a charcuterie board on the table that you can snack from and pull from. Obviously the pours. VIPs still get their complimentary cigar, which you'll be able to actually smoke at your table instead of being corralled into the little area that you have been in the past. It does eliminate our live concert with we've had Radney Foster, Walt Wilkins, Asleep at the Wheel. We've had some really nice artists.
Bands.
But people can't stick around to gather and watch it.
Sure.
So we will have some sort of music, whether it's going to be live, kind of acoustic style per time slot, or it'll just be background music. We're still working through those details depending on what bands we like and find and things like that.
Sure.
I guess that's the other thing. You're not buying a ticket.
You're buying a table.
You're buying a table. And you can either buy a 4-top or a 6-top. But you're responsible for filling that table with your party.
Right.
So it's kind of the quarantine concept, right?
Quarantine, yeah.
Yeah, I've got my family and friends that I still see. I can buy a table, we can all go.
Right.
But yes, so you're buying a table instead of individual tickets. That's the other big, major difference.
Treaty Oak is one of the distilleries, if not the distillery, that's known in the state of Texas for having been able to keep the community of whiskey people together during the pandemic.
We are still limiting any sort of group to 10 people, just so that we can make sure that we're providing a safe and comfortable environment for both our guests as well as our employees and our families that we go home to. We've got 28 acres out here.
Okay.
And most of the time people come out here to enjoy the Texas weather. So under the trees, out in the open field in the sunshine, that unique physical aspect of our property has allowed us to continue to bring people in and make them feel comfortable.
Sure.
Socially distance the tables 6 feet apart. Anytime we're indoors, like for example, the building that we're in right now is an old pole barn, and we slide and lift up all of the doors, and this effectively becomes an outside space.
Right.
Just with a roof overhead.
Right.
So having all of those things allowed us to bring people back.
And so when you guys started to contemplate bringing that back online, were there any changes that you made around here?
100%. We have, since we reopened, we have been very litigious about our sanitizing tables, staff changing gloves hourly, sanitizing all handles, all commonly touched places on the hour, every hour, making sure that our folks that come out here are being respectful of the protocol that we put in place. And no, it's not a law, but it's absolutely what
Your
we
policy.
as a private business have decided is the best route, and by and large people are respecting that.
So if there's somebody watching at home right now and they have that longing to get back out there and to engage, but there's still a little bit of a hesitancy on their part because they want to be safe during the pandemic, what would you say to them to encourage them that this is as safe of an experience as they can have in the public?
Absolutely. Good question. I would say do what you're comfortable with. I'm one who errs on the side of caution pretty intensely. Again, science is my background. My dad's a surgeon, so I've got that mentality of caution first. What we've done is created the opportunity for people to have their own little slice of sanctity. You can sit at your own table that is far away from anyone else. If you want to bring a blanket out and throw it in the middle of the field, that's your jam. Everyone who works is wearing masks the whole time. Food preparation, cocktail preparation, everything is sterile. We have sanitizer available on site at no cost. And we're all just working together to make sure everybody feels comfortable, feels safe, and can ride this last wave until we get to the point where hopefully we return to some new normal.
Right.
It'll never be the same as it used to be, and that's probably good.
Right, sure.
But I feel like we're so close. We're almost there. And what we've done is create the opportunity for people to taste that normalcy, but still be distanced, be safe, be masked up.
We are a strong people. We are going to recover. We are going to be able to continue to draw energy from one another inside this whiskey community and support one another. But we just have to be smart about it.
It is, and I think that's ultimately what it is be smart, do what you're comfortable with doing.
Take the opportunities that you need to socialize and gather. We are a social people.
We are.
And there's no reason.
And whiskey's social.
And whiskey
Let's be clear.
is social. And if you haven't experienced the connection that you can form by getting involved in a whiskey community or going to one of these events, I strongly recommend that you try it, because it has certainly been a great benefit to my life. And the benefits that come are so hard to describe to other people, because I've shared this story every week for the last few weeks, but I had a brother that came out of the military with PTSD. He was badly addicted to painkillers, and he ended up taking his own life. And nobody knew how alone he felt, right? Yeah. And people need that connection, and people can get that connection inside of a community like ours. Mm-hmm. And so I hope and pray that your event is a huge success, and that it helps to create that connection so that people don't feel alone, and so we can stay on the right path of mental health and stick together as a people. So
I couldn't have said that better myself.
People want information about Treaty Oak. Where can they get that?
So you can go to our website, www.treatyoakdistilling.com. You can follow us on Facebook at Treaty Oak, as well as Instagram. You can always shout out to me, Jamie Biel at Treaty Oak Distilling. Happy to talk more details about the science behind what we do.
And where can people find information about the Texas Whiskey Festival?
You can go to txwhiskeyfest.com. Follow us on social media at txwhiskeyfest. It's the same handle on all channels. We update it regularly. But yeah, we'll have all the details there. You can buy tables. If you're in need of this kind of camaraderie and want to get into this whiskey community or see your fellow whiskey drinkers again, April 16th and 17th, Austin, Texas, the 4th Annual Texas Whiskey Festival.
I would say that no matter where you're at, if you are in need of this kind of social interaction, the Texas Whiskey Festival seems to have an excellent plan to keep it safe. So I'd encourage you to go out there and check that out. I would also encourage you to go check out the website, bourbonrealtalk.com. And since Bourbon Real Talk is about connection, and I want no one out there to feel alone, and I figure that if somebody can hate a stranger they've never talked to on the internet, it's just as easy for me to love them. I'm here to tell you that if you woke up this morning and you were unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.